Hey there, Fashion Crushers, Fashionistas. It's good to see you. This is Wednesday Wardrobing Live for April. Sorry that it's a little bit late getting started. I had a late customer, which is just the way it goes sometimes. That's why I say six-ish on these videos, because if all goes well, they start at 6. If not, then it might be a little bit later. So April's Wednesday Wardrobing series is all about dressing your body type. So I think, well, dressing your body type and the concepts and the theories behind that are good to know year-round. I think we start to pay more attention to it in the summertime, because here in our wintry Wyoming, we can hide a little bit in our clothes in the winter. You know, I've heard it said that sweaters are just a blanket you wear to work. So, but in the summer, it's harder to hide. And so that's when we really do need to understand the principles of making the best choices for our figure type and our body type. So this series is going to be a 4-part series. Tonight's video, I'm going to cover some fundamentals like what to know about color value, what to know about optical illusions and how those can help you in putting outfits together, what to know about fabrics and prints. Those are going to kind of create a basis for everything else that we're going to talk about through the rest of this series. So next week will be 3 different body types. The following week, 3 more body types. And then the last week will be how to deal with problem areas. So if you're extremely busty, or you have a thick neck, or you have a flat butt, or whatever those kinds of things are. So the middle 2 weeks are going to be talking about our shapes. We're going to figure out what our shape is and how we dress that shape. And then the last week is going to be talking about specific areas of concern within those shapes. So that is the plan for this month. Every Wednesday, right here on the Fashionistas page at 6 or 6-ish, I will do these videos, all right? So I just want to encourage you to comment and share and ask questions. Share these videos with a friend that you know would be interested in this topic. Come prepared with your questions. If you wait until the end, a lot of times there's a lag between when you ask the question and when I see it. So it may be that you don't get your question answered. So come prepared. Don't wait till the end to ask the questions. I'll see them pop up in the comments, and then I will try to answer them as best I can. All right, so let's talk fundamentals of dressing your body type. As you know, every time I do one of these videos, I also post a blog. My blog is on WordPress. It's called Talking Trends Fashion Crushers Inc. So if you would like to read the version of what I say after I say it, just to get it in your head more firmly, that is an option for you. You can go check that blog out on WordPress. So let's talk first of all color value. So that's the first kind of fundamental thing we need to understand. So if you were a part of last month's series, we talked about determining your color palette. And there was one video in that series where I also talked about color value, because your value, whether light or dark, helps us figure out if you're a cool summer or winter, or a warm spring or autumn. And so it's the same concept in the value of your color palette. We talked about you're either light-haired, skinned, and eyed, or you're dark-haired, skinned, and eyed, and that's how you figure out if you're light or dark. In clothing, it's similar, except we might extend that value out to from 1 to a 5. So 1 being the lightest color, 5 being the darkest color. So if you imagine one color, let's take a red, okay? So the 5 would be the darkest possible red, the red with the most pigment. And then as you moved down to 4, 3, 2, and 1, you'd get, in from a color wheel standpoint, more white in that color. So it would, or more yellow, depending on if it's a warm or a cool, more lighter. So the 1 would be the lightest version of red you can imagine. The 5 would be the darkest version of red you can imagine. So why that's important is because lighter colors attract more attention. They tend to move forward in a space, whereas darker colors attract less attention because they tend to recede in a space. So when you are dressing your body, if there is an area that you don't want to draw attention to, that's the area you're going to put the darkest color value on, versus the area you want to draw attention to would be the lightest color value. Now, take this into consideration with your color palette, right? So depending on what season you are determines the pigment of the hues you can wear and still look really nice, your complexion look good. So you don't want to be light-haired, light-skinned, and light-eyed and wear the darkest red. Your colors are gonna be lighter, less pigmented, just because of your natural combination of features. So don't confuse the two. This is talking about value within your particular color palette. So like a winter and an autumn, they are the dark versions of the season, so they wear the most pigmented colors. Spring and summer are the lighter versions of the season, so they wear the less pigmented colors. So the spring and summer in this value concept of clothing is going to wear the lighter to the darkest that they could wear, and then the winter and the autumn are going to wear the lightest to the darkest that they can wear. The point here that's important is that the darker the color, the more it recedes. The lighter the color, the more it stands out. Okay? So that's what's important about color value. Next, I want to talk about visual illusions or optical illusions. So these are little tricks that can make something appear longer, can make something appear slimmer, just by the way that you put things together. So first and foremost, vertical lines. We all know that vertical lines, this being a great example, are lengthening. They make you look taller. So vertical lines are good for short people because they provide the optical illusion of lengthening and making you look taller. They're also slimming. What I hate to see is that people know that truth and then they extrapolate that out to never, ever, ever wear horizontal lines. Have you ever wondered why clothing manufacturers produce so many things with horizontal lines? It's because you don't need to avoid all horizontal lines. When they are like this, regularly spaced and small, they can actually create a slimming effect. The horizontal lines you want to avoid are the big, thick, wide horizontal lines. Those are the ones that are going to add girth to you in a top or a bottom. But when they are evenly spaced and thin, they can actually be very slimming. So don't feel like you can't wear horizontal lines because that is simply not the truth. But we do know that lines and the length, the way that they go, the way that they travel, do affect our eye. They create an optical illusion of lengthening and slimming. Next are diagonal lines. So the steeper the diagonal, so this is a diagonal line, right? This is a shallow diagonal line. This is a steeper diagonal line. So the steeper the diagonal line, the more slimming it's going to be. This comes into play with necklines. I'm sure you've heard that V-necks are slimming, but there's different kinds of V-necks, right? So this V-neck, okay, that is a less steep diagonal line than this V-neck. Do you see the difference? This one is almost horizontal. This one is less steep, okay? So this V-neck is going to be more slimming than this V-neck. V-necks are great for busty women. They help to minimize a bigger bust, but different V-necks will produce different effects. This is Simply's Deep V Trapeze Tank. Everybody loves it who tries it on, and I really think the reason is because of this deep V, because it is so slimming on. It makes your shoulders look smaller, it makes your bust look smaller, and that is an actual optical illusion at work in these two tops. The other thing, and I couldn't find a great example, but this one you can kind of see. So do you see how this top has a little bit more of a boat neck? It's a little shallower scoop, whereas this one is a little steeper of a scoop. So again, the diagonal lines are at work here. So you see, if we kind of create a diagonal line with that scoop, you can see that's a pretty deep diagonal line versus the other one that is less steep. That does not mean that this top is a bad top. It just means that if you are looking to slim your upper body, the steeper scoops and the steeper V's are going to do more for you than the shallower scoops or the shallower V's. That is an optical illusion that you can put to work for yourself. Okay, horizontal divisions are our next topic. So I'm sure you've heard that monochromatic outfits are always the most slimming. Monochromatic means it's the same color head to toe. So something like this, okay? They don't necessarily have to be different, a solid color. They can be a print just like this, but you have the same print top to bottom. The reason that monochromatic outfits are slimming is because there is no division line, okay? So when you are looking at somebody with this outfit on, the top just flows right into the skirt. Do you see there, like you kind of, if you're not paying attention, you wouldn't even necessarily realize that there was a division line between the bottom of that top and the skirt. That is why monochromatic is always more slimming, because it avoids the division line. So wherever you divide your body, so when you have two different colors and they come together, that is a division line. So it's important to consider, because where you divide your body can, with optical illusions, help to make you look slimmer or wider, depending on how you do it. So one of the reasons why we like jackets so much is because they divide the body at our hip line, which is generally, depending on the jacket length, a flattering place to have a division line, versus a tank top, which I have tucked in my tank top. So it is dividing my body at my waist, a little bit below my waist. So my waist is here, my pants are here. So this is going to be less slimming than that division line here. So when you are thinking about your colors and you're putting your colors together, you have to consider those division lines that you're creating with the two pieces that you're putting together. So for example, a longer jacket over a skinny skirt, your division line is down here. So if your eye is going to be drawn somewhere, it's going to be drawn where that division line is. So if you put a longer jacket over a short skirt, your division line is down here, the eye is going to be drawn to here, the legs. If you wear an empire waist, as another example, the division line is high on your rib cage. So the eye is going to be drawn to this part of your body instead of this part of your body, which is where most of us carry our weight, right? Is our tummy, our hips, our butt. So as you are thinking about putting clothes together and creating that dividing line, you want to make sure you're not creating the dividing line at the widest place of your body. You want to make sure you're creating that dividing line at a place where you want to draw attention to your body. Very, very important. So that's all about horizontal divisions and why they are a big deal, why they matter in the whole optical or visual illusion part of the fundamentals of dressing your body type. Another important thing to consider is background colors. So if you place a white dot in a black circle and put it next to a black dot on a white circle, white dot on a black circle, black dot on a white circle, you will notice that the darker dot, the black dot, will recede and look smaller than the white dot. This is important when considering patterns. A dark background with a light print will draw more attention and seem bigger than a light background with a dark print. So let me show you those two examples. Dark background with a light print. I love this sweater. I own this sweater. But this print on this sweater is going to seem bigger than this, which is a dark background, a dark print on a light background. Okay? So can you see how that is true? Do you see how one stands out and one seems to recede? So that is a visual illusion that is important to consider when you're considering prints. Now, if you are not trying to make your body look smaller, wear what you want. It doesn't matter. These options are really for someone who is trying to use these tools to make their body seem slimmer or to make a portion of their body seem slimmer. And we'll get into that as we talk about the different body types, you know, where the ladies that have the broad shoulders and then slim hips, you want to make this part of your body smaller, this part is already small. Do you see what I'm saying? Or the opposite, the pear-shaped ladies who have the small shoulders and the wide hips, opposite. You want to make this part of your body seem smaller. This part of your body is fine. So as I'm telling you these things, be thinking about these, like I'm not saying avoid a black sweater with a white print, not at all. I'm saying if you want to make that part of your body smaller, then this kind of a print is going to do a better job of that than this kind of a print. So that's important as well. Okay, now let's talk about fabric textures. This really, really matters, and I am a huge believer in you get what you pay for when it comes to fabrics. And I know you guys have experienced this. I know you've experienced it on yourself. I know you've seen it on other people. The cheaper the fabric, the more they show all of the figure flaws. Curves are attractive, bulges are not. You want to accentuate your curves and hide your bulges. Cheaper fabrics, thinner fabrics are going to accentuate your bulges and not do anything for your figure. So if you want to slim your body, you are going to have to spend some money on nicer quality fabrics. And that is because at the end of the day, the difference between a great style is the fabric. So you can take the same cut of a blouse, okay, same pattern, exact same pattern. You can put it in a nice quality fabric, you can put it in a cheap, poor quality fabric, and it is going to look completely different on the same body. The style, the print, the pattern is exactly the same, but what makes the difference is the fabric, and it makes all the difference in the world. So the heavier the fabric, the better it's going to drape. The lighter the fabric, the more it's going to lay on the body and show everything. If you want to slim your body or de-emphasize parts of your body that are larger, you want to put quality fabrics on that part of your body. Don't go cheap on those fabrics because they're going to show way more than a good fabric will show. It's better to spend more money and have fewer items that fit and look nice than it is to spend less money and have more items that don't fit and look nice. Something else with fabrics that you can do, you can use fabrics to create some optical illusions as well. If you have a very highly textured fabric, like my tweed jacket here, you want to pair that, like I don't recommend tweed on tweed because thicker, heavier fabrics add extra weight. So you want to do a tweed jacket with a smoother fabric on the bottom. Now, if you're slim, you can do tweed on tweed, no problem. Again, I'm not saying never do tweed on tweed, because that's not the truth. I mean, I just had a customer that looked beautiful in a tweed on tweed look. If you're wanting to slim a portion of your body, you probably don't want to do thick, bulky fabric over thick, bulky fabric. You want to do a textured fabric over a smoother fabric. So we've got my textured jacket over my smooth jeans as an example of that juxtaposition. So here's an example of like a thick on a thick, okay? So beautiful look, great, professional, wonderful. And you may be able to do this and pull it off just fine. But this two together might be too much for you. It might add extra weight. So in that situation, you would take a thick fabric like this and pair it up with a smooth fabric. So we've got this beautiful blouse that's smooth and soft and drapey, paired up with this thicker fabric that is way more tailored, and the thicker fabrics tend to hang out from your body, whereas the more drapey fabrics tend to contour to your body. A good quality drape will not cling, it will contour. That's a huge difference between lightweight quality and lightweight cheap. You could also do those pants with a smooth jacket to change that look up again. So then you, again, you're juxtaposing textures. And that is more slimming to do that than to not. So that's an important thing to consider with fabric as well. See, my other tips on fabric. You can jazz up a monochromatic outfit by combining textures, smooth and rough or matte and shiny. So if you were doing that solid monochromatic, you could keep the same color, but have one of the two be a different texture than the other. That texture can add just as much interest as a separate color. So if you feel like monochromatic single color outfits are too boring, think about how adding a different texture into that monochromatic outfit completely changes it and adds interest. Shiny fabrics will add weight. That doesn't mean avoid shiny fabrics. It just means know that they're going to add a little bit of weight. So if you, for example, are busty and you want to minimize your top, maybe you don't wear a shiny blouse. Maybe you avoid and go with more of a matte blouse or just a non-shiny fabric, as an example. Loose looks work best with a draped fabric. So like all these oversized trends that we have right now, everything is like the oversized t-shirt, the oversized sweater, the oversized jacket. So all of those oversized trends, they're going to be more slimming when you choose a soft drapey fabric as opposed to a stiff, thicker fabric. So keep that in mind as you're working through that oversized trend. And then accentuate your curves and hide your bulges. So those are my fabric tips. The other thing that I didn't include in here, which I think is important, is prints. Prints, you should choose a print that's in the same size as your body. So I know a lot of times I will hear women, especially heavier women, say, why do they do those huge prints? That just makes women look bigger. Well, actually, from a visual standpoint, a large print on a smaller body looks way out of whack versus a larger print on a bigger body. So the bigger you are, taller, heavier, the larger print you can wear. The smaller, shorter you are, the smaller print you want to wear. Again, that's those optical illusions that make a difference in the way our body is viewed in our clothing. Alrighty. Hey Stacia, how are you? Gyla, that's why I love Simply, the heavy quality of fabric drapes nicely over my not so nice bulges. Yes, Skylight, you're right. And Simply is such a great example of that. You know, it's expensive fabric. And that's why the line is expensive. But when you compare it to a lighter weight travel net, you can totally see the difference in the way that it drapes as opposed to clings. So, you know, really and truly, heavy is your friend, especially when it comes to a soft drapey fabric like Simply's travel knit. Any other questions for me before I go? Don't hesitate. If you don't have a question when you watch this live, or if you're catching the replay, just do hashtag replay. So the hashtag sign and the word replay, and then type your question. And I will know that you watched it in the replay and you have a question. And we can have this conversation all the way up to next week and into next week if we need to. So if you have any questions, if you have other things that you've noticed about the way that certain things look on you, or like if you do a collar or you don't do a collar, or how those tend to make your body look, feel free to share those. I mean, this is not an exhaustive list by any means of all of the ways that we can make good choices in style for our body types. And we'll have lots of more time to talk about that. That's why, hey Rose, that's why I broke this into 4 parts, because it's way too much to cover in one video. All right. So, okay, guys, that is it. Please share this. Please invite your friends to this series. I know this is one of the questions I get asked the most about, is how to dress my body type. It's not something that we're taught generally. And so I know that this is going to be a series that's going to be valuable for a lot of people. So invite your friends to join us. All right. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.